Welcome to another video. Texas Chainsaw Massacre just dropped about a week ago. I figured I would do a little tips and tricks to playing the family. So I did a little bit of a breakdown of playing with Bubba, Sissy, Johnny, the Hitchhiker, and the Cook as well. I figured I'd jam it all into one video to kind of break down their powers, their strengths, their weaknesses, and then kind of put it all in one video so you can play more effectively inside of every game and capture a lot more wins. So let's go ahead and get straight to it. Now, the first thing I usually like to start off saying is, of course, I am no expert at this game. There's people that have a lot more hours, and there's playstyles that work for everybody. So obviously, not everything is going to work for everybody, but maybe some tips and tricks that'll help you lure down survivors a little bit quicker. I want to start with powers. So if we start with the Bubba here, the power is obviously going to be the chainsaw. That's obviously the biggest thing. Now, using the chainsaw forces a rev up at the beginning of the game. So if you want to chase down survivors and you want to obviously get hits on the survivors, you have to make sure you rev up your chainsaw first. Once you rev this up with the right click of the mouse, you will instantly charge up your chainsaw, and then you can start chasing down survivors. Something that is a base kit for every family member in this game is the middle scroll wheel button. Something that I didn't usually expect at the beginning. But this basically gives you the aura readings of all your teammates, and also kind of also gives you the aura of blood, where you can go pick up at every area, and kind of gives you the duration of doors and sometimes survivors when they're in short ranges. So Bubba's strengths are obviously chasing down survivors, getting very heavy attacks very quickly. You can pretty much insta-hit survivors to really low health. The downside, obviously, his weaknesses, obviously you can't vault through the sliding doors, the ones that the survivors go through. You can obviously slam through doors, you can kill the things that you vault over with the barbed wire. So there is a little bit of a disadvantage trying to go through walls, so you do have to take the long route, but your best advantage is definitely trying to cut them off during those long hallways. He is a very strong killer. He's obviously the base of the game. At the beginning of the game, he always starts in the basement, so you always kind of have that advantage of picking off survivors. So for my recommendation, when you're playing Bubba at the beginning of the game and they haven't escaped the basement yet, we're talking about the victims, of course, the best thing to do is chase down the toolboxes. Now, this might sound really strange at first, like, what do you mean the toolboxes? That's usually a victim thing. The beginning of the game, a lot of people use the aura reading perk where you can see the toolboxes or the doors at the beginning of the game. If you just play as Bubba as tracking down these toolboxes for where they are, you'll find a lot of players like Connie obviously trying to pick these toolboxes really quickly and get to the top as fast as possible. So your job as Bubba is to let your teammates set up by locking doors, letting them get set up on top, and leveling up Grandpa as soon as possible. If you have the advantage of moving Grandpa up to level 1 or level 2 while you're in the basement, that is such a heavy asset for your team to be able to know where the other survivors are, especially if they're setting up traps up top, waiting for the enemy to pop up. So if you give your time that kind of lapse, that is obviously a huge beginning of the game factor to slowing down the game, as it is the very important part when playing family. Next up, who I'm going to mention is Grandpa. Now, Grandpa is an asset to the team. Just kind of sits in his chair all game. Figured I'd mention him anyway, because he has 4 different tiers that I kind of want to go over, kind of threw together in a little text sheet for you so you can kind of read it. But he is a powerful asset to your team. Not a lot of killers who I play with really know the power of really upgrading him. His power really procs when the victims leave the basement, or they make too much noise downstairs, or you kill the first victim in the basement as the Bubba. So that is the 3 ways, obviously, he procs his ability. But obviously very important to feed him blood every single game because his ability gets stronger at every tier. Starting off at level 1, Grandpa starts detecting victims from time to time, but they can still hide from his vision by simply standing still during his channeling. So while he screams, if the victim stands still, you won't be able to see him, but if the victim is in the middle of running, you obviously see his aura for a short period of time. At level 2, Grandpa has a reduced cooldown and spots victims that are further away that are moving while he is channeling. So regardless, it is a lower cooldown, it procs more often, and you'll be able to spot them just about the same amount as level 1, preferably, but you keep leveling him up and he just gets more and more powerful. At level 3, Grandpa has a reduced cooldown and additionally can now spot victims that are hiding in the shadows if they are not standing still. So, particularly if they are running in between bushes and stuff like that, you'll still be able to see them from across the map no matter which family member you are playing, which is extremely powerful. Once he is level 4 slash level 5, because it's really the same tier, is the final level that the grandpa can basically achieve when you fill him with enough blood. Usually you can get blood between the vials placed around the map, or you can obviously get them from killing survivors or victims. Level 4 is the final level that the grandpa can achieve, and at that point his channeling ability is so strong that even if a victim was to stand still, it would still get fully detected during the channeling period. So regardless of them moving or not, it doesn't matter anymore. It basically is just an OP stage of Grandpa's ability. You can see them at all times, and you will not require any more blood for him. Now, the crazy part is that every 10 to 15 seconds, you will be able to see where each victim is until you obviously kill them off or they escape. Now, the victims can obviously slow down this ability. Let's say the grandpa is at level 3. If they pick up one of the bone shards that is in the basement or actually on the top, they can go up and immobilize Grandpa, which lowers one of his level tiers. So stabbing him lowers him, let's say he's at level 3, back down to level 2, and the family won't be able to see the aura reading ability that the Grandpa produces, obviously, when he screams. So that is a powerful asset to the game. If you're playing family, you definitely want to make sure that you're feeding Grandpa blood as much as possible. And just add it to what you're already doing on the map, because this will be a powerful asset later in the game when they're trying to escape. Alright, now moving on to my personal favorite, the Hitchhiker. So the Hitchhiker is a special family member as well. He has the ability to set traps around the map. You can trap certain things like fuse boxes, certain doors. You can basically put traps just about anywhere, on gates, anything you can possibly think of. It is such a powerful asset to the game. So the traps, if you actually set those down, any victim that steps in there, you'll be able to see the aura reading around the map for where they stepped in that trap. And they also lose health along with the perk that if you bring with it is extremely powerful. Now the good news about the Hitchhiker as well, he can also crawl through the crawl spaces, which the Bubba cannot, and some of the other family members cannot as well. Can pretty much vault through anything except for the barbed wire vault overs. Those are the only ones that are accessible to Bubba. The reason why the Hitchhiker is so powerful at the end of the day is being able to trap most doors from the lead up spot. If they give you enough time, you can use most of that time setting up those traps around the map. You get 3 per game, so it kind of gives you that little asset of locking down one side of the map if you're locking most of the open exit gates, which kind of slows down how fast they can get out of the game. I do actually have a great example of Hitchhiker when I played this map. I actually got 2 of the victims to step into my traps, and you can kind of see the aura reading ability around that. The great part is having a lot of stamina with the Hitchhiker. The cooldown is a little bit 5 seconds when you run out of stamina, which kind of does suck sometimes when you're chasing down survivors. But you can catch up to them really quick since he does like a light jog, so it's not too bad. That was one of the cool assets of playing Hitchhiker. You could literally trap one side of the map from the exit gates, and always knowing where the survivors are is such a powerful asset to the Hitchhiker. This game I actually trapped the fuse box, and Connie stepped right in that trap, and I was mostly just waiting for her to come out. But it was such a good little setup that I had in that little house. So he can be very good as long as you use his abilities well, and obviously make sure since you spawn at the top to always feed Grandpa, lock doors, etc., and help Bubba on the top. Alright, now for Mr. Grandpa Jenkins. No, I'm just joking. This is the Cook. So now we're moving on to the Cook. The Cook has the power ability of being able to padlock doors, which is pretty strong in its own sense. This makes the victims take longer times to unlock the doors because obviously the padlock makes it a little bit more confusing. Obviously they can still open the doors with the padlocks, just takes them a longer time, which means you can pretty much trap the exit doors, just like the same thing with the Hitchhiker. He also has the ability to hone in, so not just his power of padlocking the doors, he can hone into some of the victims, whether they're downstairs or upstairs, by being able to see their aura from a small range, which is actually pretty decent. Um, so I'd say he's a decent family member as well. He's a little bit slow. That was what I would say is his weakness. He's a little bit slow. Um, of course, he can't vault as well. He can't vault anything actually, which kind of does factor into how bad some of his gameplay could be sometimes. I'll have certain map tiles where they can just vault repeatedly, and I have to continuously run around until I get a teammate to support me. So he does have his benefits of being able to padlock doors and slow down how fast the survivors get out, which does have its own assets. Comes in with three per base kit, just like every other family member in the game. But the honing ability is probably the best ability when it comes to the cook. Being able to hone in and tell where the victims are at all times, which is pretty good. It's pretty good. I will say that. Um, he is probably one of my least used family members for sure, just because I don't think his ability is too strong. But he does have his powerful assets as well. So yeah, definitely the important part is obviously locking the gates as soon as possible. Make sure you keep the gates locked as long as possible. That's definitely important. Locking those doors and make sure you just put padlocks on the escape doors is very important. You will slow down them tremendously, especially if your teammates catch on to it. So he is a very powerful asset to the team as well. Just not probably my preferable Switch character, but when you level him up, like his ability, it gets super strong. So more of a legendary killer. If you play him for a long amount of time, his ability is more worth it. But playing him at base, like when you're just starting the game, I wouldn't say is the most enjoyable experience. But he does play his own role for sure. And locking all the doors, and even if they're already open, you can still padlock the doors, which is very powerful as well. Because sometimes, obviously, when they break open the doors, you can't lock them again, but you can still put padlocks on them, which does slow them down even more, which can help your team out for that extra few seconds to get that survivor killed. So yeah, definitely important. Moving on to my boy Johnny. Johnny is another family member in our little group here. He has a special power ability to obviously track footsteps. That's his big ability. Now, whenever chasing a survivor, a lot of the times we do lose any kind of victim while chasing them around. So that happens a lot of the times. Johnny makes the ability to track the footsteps and follow them from a long period of time. So you can just use the right click ability for PC. I'm not sure what it is for Xbox or PlayStation. I just know at the end of the day, you can track their footsteps really well. He has a very good ability of being able to chase people down. Um, if you pair this with the high level ability of the grandpa, it is extremely powerful. Not to mention, losing survivors on a daily basis is kind of crazy in that sense. I like to pair this with the perk that tracks them when they go down the well, because a lot of the times I'll go down to the basement and know where they are for an extra 7 seconds, and then I can use that to track their footsteps to follow them to where they go. He's super fast. He can keep up with them almost consistently. Um, Compared to the hitchhiker, he is very similar to the cook, where he can't obviously vault any of the obstacles just like normal, but he does have a really strong ability to be able to track people down and find them very quickly, and he does have very quick hits as well. He has a very decent speed, like the cook, so he has a decent speed, and he has a little bit more, or at least better stamina than the cook as well. I find him just to be a little bit more powerful asset to the team overall. He's very fun to play if you play him almost consistently. I mean, there's no reason why you don't get like 1 or 2 kills per game. He's a very strong killer for sure, being able to track people wherever they go. So I would say that's one of his biggest strengths. At the end of the day, it is a very powerful asset to the team, especially when you level up Grandpa. If you continue to lock doors and feed Grandpa from the blood vials, you can definitely get this up very quickly. And Johnny is definitely in my top three for killer, if I'm not counting Bubba. He's very fun to play. I also forgot to mention this as well. When it comes to the cook and Johnny, they can actually close crawl spaces. which kind of gives you the advantage of them having to reopen it, of the victims, of course. They have to reopen those crawl spaces, which does take time. Sometimes that extra time can get a kill each game, which the Hitchhiker and Sissy cannot do. So that's actually a powerful benefit as well. All right, we've come to our last family member, Sissy. So Sissy is a one of my favorite, my top two. Right now, she's very fun to play. She's very fast, like Hitchhiker, so very comparable to Hitchhiker, except her ability is poison. So she shoots these little, looks like poison darts. You'll see later in the clip, which are very powerful. You can pair it with one of her aura reading abilities. If one of the victims step in the poison, not only does it slow them down, but it also gives you the aura of where they are as well. Um, there is some powerful stuff that you can stack with this that gives you also like a speed boost ability that works pretty well. So she has a pretty crazy ability when you pair it up with like several perks, which makes her extremely strong. I mostly focus on when I'm playing Sissy, just make sure you're getting blood up, and then I'll trap the exit doors with poison. If you get one of her upgrade abilities, you can time it up to 50 seconds for a duration, and it sits there for a whole minute, which does help a little bit. Another cool thing about Sissy is that you can recharge her poison actually, and usually mostly the basement is usually where I find them, where I can recharge the poison for the stuff I use on the basement doors, which do help out a lot because it slows them down. It also gives my teammates aura reading abilities. Um, but she's a very strong killer regardless. She can go through crawl spaces no problem. She poisons wherever you want it to, up to 3 base kit. But like I said, you can recharge those, which is pretty strong. Overall, just a really strong killer in general. I don't have much issues with her when I play her. I usually get a couple kills, sometimes 3 kills, 2 kills. She's a very strong base start. If anyone starts playing, she's very definitely a good family member to start with. So usually my recommendation is Sissy. I mean, I have her leveled up a lot, and I use a lot of her aura seeing with the poison, and it works really well. But yeah, she has no problem getting in and out of small spaces, crawl spaces, in between some of the spaces that not a lot of the other ones, not a lot of the other family members can get through. So it works really well. In the same sense, if you stock it with the blood web, it really works well because if you can see the aura readings, you kind of see where the victims are heading up the stairs, so you can kind of place your poison well. Sometimes I also like to put them on wells, stuff like that. So if I know they're going to be lured to some of these wells and they're going to go there multiple times, it kind of slows them down. Sometimes gives me enough to incapacitate them while they go down the well. So it works really well. Well. um, so yeah, no, she's a very strong killer altogether. A lot like Hitchhiker, just has more of like the poison ability, regardless of the trap. So they both do have like a base kit trap kind of thing, but I just like Sissy's ability a lot better. It's a lot more fitting for sure. Overall, yeah, very strong killer, and very powerful to the team if you use her abilities well in the right spots and you're able to refuel your poison. You can pretty much use it anywhere. So yeah. So what are your overall thoughts on the game? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Sound off in the comments below. Let me know how you guys are enjoying the game. I find it very addicting in my own sense. I know there's a lot of bugs and fixes they need to improve on the game, but I'm hoping there's going to be an update soon on that. But without further ado, I just thought I'd make this for newer players. If it does pretty well, maybe I'll do a perk breakdown for both sides, or I'll even do a victim one. That would put us all in the same sense. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video anyway. If you're newer to the game, I hope you guys were cool with my insight. Regardless of how you play the game is completely up to you, but sometimes we need some tips and tricks to lead us along the way. So if you enjoyed this video, it would mean so much to me if you left a like on the video. I worked and spent a lot of hours on this, so I would really appreciate any kind of support. So yeah, sound off in the comment section how you guys feel about this game so far. It's only been up a week. I mean, it's just been super fun to me, and I hope you guys are feeling the same way. But let me know in the comment section what you guys want me to do next. If it's towards the perks, or it's towards the victims we could do next, some of the abilities that they have, and some of the perks that I can break down in the game that kind of change the game overall, and how basically you can get kind of quick escapes in this game. I have a pretty great experience of playing this game overall so far. I'm just hoping to see what they have next, and I guess we'll see what happens next. Without further ado, Waldo, I'm out. Peace.